What's it like raising a professional baseball player? What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and this is an extra special edition of Red Seat Radio because today we are joined by Dan Hagenman, father of newly acquired Red Sox relief prospect Justin Hagenman. And Dan's coming on today to talk to us about what it's like from a parent's perspective, what it's like to see your son grow up and get drafted, end up in the minor leagues, and grinding his way towards the majors. He's going to talk about all of that today for us. But before we get into that, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. All right, we are officially joined by Dan Hagenman, father of Justin Hagenman, newly acquired Red Sox relief pitching prospect from the Kike Hernandez trade. Dan, thank you so much for being here. What I wanted to do was sort of start at the beginning and talk about what it was like raising a professional baseball player. So my first question for you, was there ever a point watching Justin when he was younger where you were like, wow, this kid could be a professional baseball player? Was there any specific skills or mindset that Justin had that you thought sort of separated him from the rest of the pack?
Yeah, most definitely. I don't know that I would say that I ever envisioned him as a professional baseball player, but certainly from a very young age, he had eye-hand coordination. That goes way back to like 5 and 6 years old, and kind of a certain aggressiveness that I think you need in athletics. So, it led me to believe that he had a future. And we always projected it one step at a time. Okay, try to make your little league team, then we'll try to make your middle school team, high school team, et cetera. So I don't think we ever looked too, or I shouldn't say we, I don't think I ever looked too far into the future. It was kind of one at a time, try to be the best you can at that age level, and then, see what becomes of it.
Now he's in college. What was sort of the first conversation you guys had with Justin about the possibility of entering the MLB draft? Was there a scouting process, anything like that? Could you walk us through that sort of from your perspective, as well as what may have been going through Justin's head as well?
Right. At a very early in his college career, he had a lot of success. He went as kind of a I'm going to say not a highly touted prospect, but mid-level, let's say. But when he got to Penn State, which is where he attended school, he really did well in their fall camp, and then earned a starting weekend rotation, or a spot in their weekend rotation, which is pretty difficult for a freshman. So
Yeah.
he did that and had a really good freshman year, and then not so good sophomore year, and a pretty good junior year. So prior to his junior year, to answer your question, they have each I think at least power school has a pro day, where all the I think all 30 teams come, but a large majority of them come to the pro day. And he did real well. His velocity was up. He pitched really well during that day. And at that point, he started getting a lot of inquiries from a number of different professional organizations. So that's kind of when it really started heating up, in terms of when we thought, yeah, this can be a real thing. His coach at Penn State had spent some time in the major leagues, and actually came to me and said he's going to get a shot. So that's kind of where I went on and said, okay, this might really happen.
Yeah. So what was that sort of conversation like when the coach came to you and was like, "Hey, he's got a real shot at this"?
Yeah, it was, for me, it was exciting because you're always hoping and saying, well, do we get a chance at the next level? But there's so many factors involved, and you just never. So that was, for me, it's kind of really encouraging to hear, and I know for Justin, same thing, because he really didn't know as well. He knew what the advanced scouts were telling him, but he wasn't sure.
Yeah,
So we
that makes sense.
have a shot.
So now that he's got sort of the idea that he could be a professional baseball player, what was it like sort of entering the draft, going through, he was drafted in the 23rd round. So there were a lot
Yeah.
of days in the MLB draft. You were sort of waiting for that name call. What was that experience like from your end?
Yeah, that was a little bit, we were a little bit on edge in a way, because we thought initially we knew he wouldn't go on the first day,
Yeah.
but hoping he would go a little higher than he did. Um, some of I'm not sure what the factors were involved in that. And then at that point, it was like, okay, he has a lot of confidence in himself. So he said, wherever I get drafted, once I get there, I can show them that maybe I should have been a higher round pick, or just maybe I was a really good value at 23.
So what was it kind of like getting that? The Dodgers, I assume, call you guys, call Justin, obviously. What was that moment like for the family? Just realizing that, hey, Justin's now a professional baseball player, essentially.
Right. It was exciting. I mean, I guess once we started getting into around 15 or something, he was getting a call from a lot of different teams saying, "Hey,
Mm-hmm.
trying to work the numbers, say, hey, well, what would you sign for, et cetera, et cetera." And then a couple more rounds passed, and he was still on the phone with maybe 2 to 3 or 4 teams. And then the Dodgers called him and said, "Hey, we're taking you with this pick." And that was really exciting. For him, it was
Yeah.
final. It was a relief and it was exciting at the same time. He said, "Hey, this is it. This is my chance." And then the Dodgers contacted him, and it kind of, it was, it just took off from there, and he was gone.
That's
Yeah.
yeah, I can't even imagine that moment. It's gotta be, all these years of not even hard work. Well, obviously hard work from Justin, but you guys as well, right? I played a little bit of baseball when I was younger. I certainly wasn't Justin's level, but going through T-ball, AAU, doing all the competitive circuits and stuff like that. Was there ever a moment, when he was drafted, when he signed his first deal, that you were like, wow, like all this hard work is finally paying off? Or were you more like, okay, it's next step, it's go time kind of?
Both. I would say both. I said, you have to put in the work, and that
Yeah.
was a word for putting in that work. But I also let him know that this is the beginning. It's it's not the end, or it's not it's not the top of the hill. It's the beginning. And he did understand that being drafted as late as he was, that he was going to really have to work even harder, and he did. When his rookie year, he obviously went to rookie ball, but then after that, he really went on a full time workout schedule down in Florida, to where he really worked on his legs. And one of his, probably one of the reasons why he didn't get drafted as higher was his velocity had dipped a little bit in his senior year, and
Yeah.
or his actual state. So he went to work on that, and then over the next couple of years, he got his velocity up into the low to mid 90s, which is where you really have to be to pitch professionally. So yeah, that
Right.
worked. And again, I tell people, you go back to the early mid years, it becomes actually a lifestyle for you. It's really your life to try to get him to be as good as he can be, or to give him the resources that he needs to be as good as he can be. And that's kind of the way we approach that.
Yeah, so it was almost like a second full-time job, basically.
Yeah, our first one sometimes. Once you get into high school, you're traveling to all the perfect game stuff and all the travel stuff. And, it's a Thursday to Sunday type deal most of the weekends, because he didn't play locally once he got into college. He played for a team out of Virginia, and
Oh
then they were
wow.
South Carolina, Florida, Georgia. So, yeah, we weren't home very many weekends those summers.
Yeah, that's a lot of it's a lot of work. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. I feel like, when you're drafting or when you get drafted, a lot of the public perception is just, oh, this guy has just always been good at baseball. But I feel like a lot of people don't realize the grind, the mindset that you have to be in just to get to draft day, let alone get past draft day and get into the
Yeah.
minor
No,
leagues.
right. You're right. And, certainly some people have a little more innate ability than others. I think Justin was in the middle. That certainly had a lot of ability, but he had to put in a lot of work, to get to where he is now.
Mm-hmm.
So, combination of the physicality and the physical work you put in, but the mind, he's always had a good mind. He's always
Yeah.
been kind of calm and been able to handle pressure situations really well, or handle anything that comes his way. So I think that contributes a lot to where he is, today.
From your perspective, right now we're through the draft. He signed his first deal. What was it like seeing Justin on the mound in his first professional game?
Yeah, it's funny. You don't, because now you've opened up. You're not now you're international. Essentially, you're dealing not just in your local area or in your region or your state or even the country, but now you're dealing. You're competing against the world essentially. That was kind of, again, it kind of, I would say, kind of neat in a way that it was exciting, but it was like, well, can he do this? Can he
Yeah.
really world stage essentially? And yeah, he proved to us and himself, I guess, that he could. He's always had decent years in the Dodgers organization, so he kept moving up the ladder.
Yeah, you moved
They,
up pretty quickly too, right? I mean, the 2019 season was A, and then obviously you missed the 2020 season, but
right,
then in 2021, you're immediately up to Double A, right? You
yeah,
got pretty quickly through the system.
A because of COVID, I guess, and then he went to Double A for the year, and then he started the following year. He spent the rest of that year, and then of course this year in
Mhm.
Oklahoma.
With you guys, was there ever a conversation? Because you mentioned that he started a lot at Penn State, right? And then as he gets into the minor leagues, it shifts more towards a reliever type role. Is that a conversation that obviously Justin had with his coaches? Was that ever discussed with you guys? Like, hey, this is sort of the track they're putting me on. Is this how I'm going to break into the big leagues? Was that conversation ever had?
Oh, it did, and he's the kind that, or we both are. Whatever the team needs, or whatever role helps him advance, more quickly, or quick,
Mhm.
quick. So he's always been willing to take on whatever role. He, obviously prefers this as a starter role,
Right.
and his with his makeup, I think his pitch repertoire and his command fits with the starter's role. But he can succeed in the long relief role as well, and
Mhm.
which is primarily what he's been with the Dodgers. They were converting him back into a starter the past month or so. I would say he's had about 5 starts.
Oh,
So
interesting. Yeah.
yeah.
My next question here is this is obviously a Red Sox channel. What was it like? This was his first time dealing with being traded. It's across the entire country. What was that? Were you guys excited? Were you nervous when you got the call that he was getting traded? What was that conversation like?
He was thrilled for a couple of reasons. One, it's on the East Coast, and we're East Coast people, so he was really excited to get back to the East Coast. And then if you fast forward maybe to spring training, he gets to train in Fort Myers. I personally own a house in Naples, so it's
Oh,
a
perfect.
20-minute drive up 75. And then, but the real important thing is he thought he would get a real shot to move up with the Red Sox, and
Yeah.
but that was the most important factor in getting traded. No, it was all positive. He was very excited. He appreciated what the Dodgers did for him, but it was kind of time to see if he could get a better opportunity in the Red Sox organization.
And was there ever a conversation between the Red Sox and Justin where, like, hey, you're going to come in here. This is what we want you to work on. This is what we kind of see you envision you as you move closer towards being a major league pitcher? Was there ever that kind of conversation, or was it just sort of, hey, welcome to the club?
Yeah, I don't think they got into that. I did hear an interview with the I guess it was the GM, and said that he would get a shot. They would look at him as a reliever, but also look at him as a potential starter. So again, he'll do what he has to do, whatever the team needs most.
Right. Yeah, that's the perfect mindset to be, especially when you're a pitcher prospect. I feel like that when you're a pitcher prospect, you're moved all over the place in the minor leagues, trying to figure out what spot you're in. So it's a great mindset to have.
Yeah, and I think for him, as long as he's throwing regularly, he's happy. Whatever role that might be. He likes. He obviously loves the pitch, so that's the most important thing.
Yeah. One of the things that's really interesting to me is when you're a prospect in the system, you're graded out. Your potential is always being graded out, right? Everyone's trying to figure out what you could be at the big leagues, what you could look like. Is that something you pay attention to personally? Are you very involved with taking a look at the projections, ratings, stuff like that? Are you like, I know what my son can do?
Right, in a way, because I know it's important to some of the baseball people and the way it's run today. But my view on that is the most important thing is getting hitters out, and whatever your approach to get hitters out, whether it's command or whether it's overpowering stuff, whichever one works for that particular pitcher is what's important. And Justin doesn't have overpowering stuff, but he does have a 4 pitch repertoire that he can pretty much spot wherever he wants, all four quadrants of the plate. So his pitch ability is high. If you look at the metrics, maybe not so much. But he's pretty, he's improved in those areas. Like I said, his velocity's been up. He has good movement on his sinker. Slider's been improving, changeup set. So yeah, I don't pay a whole lot of attention to that. I really look at, hey, what kind of swings are the hitters getting off of you? Are you missing bats? And his strikeout rate's pretty good. Strikeout to walk rate is off the
That's
chart.
great. Yeah.
So you know, there's more than just power when you're pitching.
Right. There's a little bit of finesse involved as well.
Yeah.
As he's sort of made his way through the minor leagues, what's that grind been like from your perspective, right? Because obviously, Justin, this is now his full-time job. This is something that, he's got to constantly do. With the Dodgers, he's playing in a lot of sort of Midwest towns that weren't exactly massive. Is that something you guys try to get out there, see him a lot play, or is it sort of like, we try to get out there when we can, or we'll see you when we can type
No,
of thing?
yeah, I've been out there. I mean, every place except his rookie ball year. I visited him at least twice a year. So it was Great Lakes, then it was Tulsa, then Oklahoma City. Those Midwest towns, there wasn't really any road destinations that were for me desirable. I mean,
Right.
so kind of stuck with the home crowd and did that. Now, so I did get out to see him at least twice a year, but we also subscribed to MILB TV, so we watched pretty much every game.
Yeah.
And as lever, you don't really know what games I mean, you do at some point, but you don't really know what game he's going to pitch. So
Right.
kind of tuning in on the West Coast, you're tuning in late at night. So yeah, I mean, we still watched every night, and when he got in, it was kind of fun.
Yeah.
When he did up late, watching other kids pitch.
Was it when he goes into games from your end, are you nervous? Are you excited? Are you just sort of like, okay, I know what he's got to work on. Let's see what he can work on. Is it more analytical from your end?
I think in the beginning of his professional career, was more nervousness. It's like, can he handle this? Will he do well? If he doesn't do well, what's going to happen? But these last 2 years, I saw him handle the situation successfully, and really do well against this level. So at that point, I wasn't nervous anymore. I would just say, okay, let's see what we got here. What's he going to throw in this count, in this situation? And for me and for him, because I coached him all through his years. The walks are what I mean, they're going to get their hits, and
Right.
every pitcher gets hit, but you try to really reduce the number of walks. So that's kind of where I really focused. Don't give the free pass.
Right. Never works out.
Yeah, yeah, not typical.
Obviously he came from the Dodgers organization, which is a big market, right? But Boston, I feel like media wise, is just an entirely different beast. Is that something that you guys are you sort of locked in with, sports radio, analytics, or analysts and stuff like that? Are you just like, I'm gonna tune all that out? I don't want to know what they're saying about my son. I just want to see what he does on the field.
Yeah, that's interesting. We're from Philadelphia, the Philadelphia market, so
Okay.
it's similar to the media in Boston.
Yeah.
Really, I expect if he doesn't do well that he'll get criticized. So I think it's part of the territory, and I don't really worry a whole lot about it. But although it'll be new, because I don't, at all the levels he's been at now, he hasn't really, no one, they don't really care enough to really criticize you. And the Midwest are a little bit more, a
Right.
little easier, I guess, on the players there. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
an interesting. We'll see what happens.
We've got right now the Red Sox. I feel like their entire pitching staff is on the IL right now, so they're all down in Worcester right now. Justin's probably going to get the opportunity to work or at least talk to guys like Tanner Howe, Garrett Whitlock, Chris Sale, who's going to be
So
down there for a little bit. Is that something Justin is looking forward to? Is that something that you talk to him about? Hey, pick their brains, or is that something that like, hey, they're just another ball player?
no, very much so. He's had that experience in the Dodgers organization because there's rehab assignments all the time, and he'll absorb as much as he can from those guys that have done it at that level. So yeah, I think that's a positive. I think he's looking forward to interacting with guys like Tanner Houck and Chris Sale. So I
Yeah,
think he gets that opportunity. Yeah,
true, and he'll get a free dinner out of it, from what I'm told.
I say that because when they come down, it's really good. They fill the clubhouse with you know good food.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I hear that's always the thing is they pay for dinner and stuff like that.
yeah.
All right, so I don't want to take up too much of your time, so I'll ask you one more question here, and I'll let you get on with your day. My final question is have you thought about what Justin's debut is going to look like? Is there a plan? Obviously, these things tend to happen pretty spontaneously, right? And do you think once he gets there, is there a memory that you think will pop into your head, something from T-ball, something from AAU, something from high school, stuff like that?
Yeah, I think I'm trying to keep my schedule flexible so that if that moment comes up, I can kind of, well, at least now I could drive there. So that would be great. I mean, the most of the in an international league are fairly drivable for us from right here. So I think you have, like Lehigh Valley, which is very close. even Rochester, et cetera. But I guess it would depend on where, if the Red Sox will be on the East Coast, if he has opportunity to get called up. But I'm sure a lot of memories will be flowing through your head at that point. But then I'm sure the nerves will kick in.
Yeah.
Like get in front of that kind of a crowd, and yeah, hopefully he gets that opportunity soon. And I don't know, I'm not sure exactly how he'll handle it. I think he'll be fine. I'll probably be more nervous than he will be. Put it that way. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't even imagine, all this years of work from not only your son, but all the sacrifices you guys made to have that sort of accumulate in one, you know, 2 inning burst appearance out of the bullpen has got to
Yeah.
be a
Yeah.
world
And
of emotion.
said earlier, you don't ever, when you're young, you don't say, "Oh, I'm gonna," you say, "I want to be a professional player," but that's not in your plan. So you go
Right.
step at a time, and then once you get there, one level at a time, and you just hope that the series of skill sets and luck and timing puts you in that position. And yeah, if and when that comes, I'll be really excited about it for sure.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. So thank you so much for coming on, Dan. I really appreciate this. I think a lot of people are going to love this sort of unique perspective on what it takes to get someone to the professional league. But before you go, I just want to ask, is there anything that Red Sox Nation should know about Justin, your family, anything like that?
I mean, I would say we've been lifelong baseball fans. Obviously, growing up in the Philadelphia market, we were Phillies fans, and then we kind of became Dodgers fans. So
Right.
we're forward. I've always, and I know Justin's always respected the Red Sox organization because it's well known as a first class organization and a successful one. So yeah, that's kind of it. We're looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to get back up in the New England states and seeing them pitch and. Yeah, I think it's going to be a good ride.
I think so too. Again, thank you so much for coming
Yeah,
on, Dan. We really appreciate it.
thank you for having me. Appreciate
Of
it.
course, anytime.